Film star Stormy Daniels is suing her former attorney Keith Davidson and President Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen. Daniels' lawsuit charges that Davidson and Cohen colluded to manipulate her in, quote, a manner designed to benefit Mr. Cohen and Mr. Trump. The complaint includes text messages between Davidson and Cohen that show their communication between January and March of this year. Daniels says in the suit that the two men took action when they learned about a soon-to-be-published article that would detail her alleged sexual encounter with President Trump. A spokesman for Keith Davidson denounced the lawsuit, calling it frivolous. Joining me now to discuss this is attorney and host on the Law and Crime Network, Jesse Weber. Jesse, first, just explain to us what this motion means, what it is in and of itself, before we branch it out.
Sure. So this lawsuit is alleging that her attorney, well, let me rephrase, her former attorney, Keith Davidson, was colluding. It's a word that we keep hearing all over. He was colluding with Michael Cohen, who was representing President Trump. And what were they doing? Really, that he was not operating in the best interest of her, which was her client, but the idea that they were working together so that she would go on a news program and deny that she ever had an affair. But not only that, that he revealed confidential communications that she had. We're talking about attorney-client privilege with an outside counsel. Now, the way this works is usually attorneys are free to talk to one another. But if she didn't give the okay about having certain communications released to a third party, including President Trump's attorney, that's a big no-no. That's a big problem here. So there's a combination where she's saying, look, Keith Davidson, you basically betrayed me. You betrayed my loyalty. You betrayed my trust. And not only that, you revealed secret conversations. At the same time, this furthers the action that she has against Mr. Cohen, saying everything you have done has been to intimidate and harass and manipulate me into signing this document saying I didn't have sexual relations with President Trump, and also denying the $130,000 payment. So I find this to be very interesting in the overall scheme of things.
And that's what makes that letter that you've just mentioned so interesting, because that had nothing to do with President Trump. Letter from Stormy Daniels in January would fall within the window that Michael Avenatti is saying that her former lawyer and Keith Davidson were colluding against her. But what do you make of the overall strategy and how this issue links up with what Michael Cohen is facing already here in New York State?
I think this definitely strengthens the defamation case, where you say, how could President Trump or how could Michael Cohen say these things about me, that I'm lying and that there was never an affair, when clearly there's a communication between her attorney and another attorney and Mr. Cohen about that very issue. So I think it's going to strengthen the defamation case. It also places President Trump in a very interesting position, because the question becomes, can he be deposed in any of these civil lawsuits? And the question is, would he be deposed and say, did you know anything about the $130,000 payment? You've claimed before that you never had sexual relations with Stormy Daniels. Michael Cohen said it. So if he's put under there, and then he clearly knew what his attorney was having conversations with her attorney about, it's going to be very difficult for him in a deposition to say, I didn't know, because then he's going to be tripping up over himself. And that becomes a question of, and I don't want to say it, perjury, which you never want to see, and that's way down the road. But what Avenatti is doing is basically created a narrow space by which Mr. Cohen and Mr. Trump can operate. And it's a really good move.
It's fascinating, and it's such a tangled legal web as well when you look at what's at play currently. So what would be your expectation for what can happen next? Or what is Michael Cohen's options at this point?
So let's take a step back. I don't think there's anything wrong per se about an attorney for one side communicating with an attorney from another side. We see it in settlements. They have communications about their client's interest. But if she has a strong case here, this doesn't look good for Mr. Cohen or Mr. Trump in any of the civil lawsuits. But again, we're still trying to understand what are the possible criminal charges that are being brought about Mr. Cohen. And obviously, Stormy Daniels becomes a big issue in any of those. This will only seem to help their case, but I don't want to say so quickly because, again, Mr. Davidson and his spokespeople have said there's nothing wrong here between their communications. It might be too quick to jump to the gun with that.
But now they may be in a position where they're forced to prove that. Jesse Weber, great to have you here and get your insight. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.